Hello friends, it's Lisa and welcome to my reading journal setup for 2024. I have been so excited to share this video. I just love the start of a new year, the start of a new reading year, and with that comes a new reading journal, and it's just so fun to have a fresh start there as well and have all these new spreads to start filling in. It's just all very exciting. So I'm excited to share what my reading journal for 2024 is going to look like with you all. So this year for the actual journal, I once again went with a journal from Michaels. It's the Artist Loft dotted grid journal, and they're super inexpensive, which is why I decided to get it again this year. I think maybe next year if I do a reading journal again, which I'm sure I will, I might invest in a nicer journal, but honestly, the Michaels journals for the cost hold up really well throughout the year, so I went with this light pink one. I have actually used this light pink journal for my reading journal before. I just really like the color, so I decided to use it again this year. And for the theme for the beginning of the reading journal, because I had so much stationery that kind of worked for this sort of thing, I decided to do a dark academia theme. I feel like this is kind of a staple reading journal theme, and I don't think I've really done it before. I feel like the beginning of the year spreads in my reading journals before, I've done some other things, so I figured it was about time I did a dark academia theme, and my beginning of the year spreads felt like the perfect time to do that. So right now I'm working on the first set of pages for the journal, and this is just going to be the title page for the whole journal. Purely pages that are just for the aesthetic and just for the intro of the journal. They don't really have much of a purpose, but over on the left-hand side, I'm creating a quote page. I cover up that key that was on that page just because I don't really need it. I'm not going to use it, so I'd rather have it be covered by something that's more aesthetic for the actual beginning of the year spread. So I'm just creating a quote page with an Emily Henry quote. Is from Book Lovers, which was the first book I read in 2023, so it just seemed kind of fitting. And the quote is, "Some books you don't read so much as live." And I thought that was a perfect quote to start the journal with. I also do make a mistake when writing it out. I forgot to create a space in between so and much. I don't know what happened there. I was just in the zone of writing, but I figured trying to rip everything off and redoing it was just going to, one, kind of probably frustrate me a little bit, and also maybe trying to fix it was just going to make it look worse. So I just decided to leave it. I know it's a little annoying. Trust me, I'm going to have to look at it all year, so don't worry about it. It's fine. I'm not that mad about it. And then over on the right-hand side is the title page for the whole journal. I'm just writing 2024 reading journal. I use a mix of stamps, and then when the stamps didn't come out as dark as I wanted them to with the white ink, I went over them with a white gel pen just to make them pop a little bit more. And then I'm just doing a lot of layering, just taking a lot of scrap paper and a lot of washi tape and stickers and just adding it to all of the pages, just kind of creating that scrapbook sort of look, which is what I like to do in my reading journal. So after the decorative title page is complete, we move on to the first more functional spread in my reading journal, which is my reading goals page. So over on the left-hand side, I keep track of the numerical goal that I have for the year. So at the beginning of each year on Goodreads and Storygraph, I set my goal for a certain amount of books that I want to read. This year is 60 books, so I'm just creating 60 boxes, and then throughout the year, after I finish a book, I will just color them in, and it'll be a nice way to see sort of a visual kind of progress bar on what I'm reading throughout the year and how well I'm doing on my goal. And then over on the right-hand side, I have my more general just goals that I want to be focusing on in the year, things that aren't necessarily things that can be measured in numbers, just things I want to make sure I'm doing throughout the whole year. Oh, I did forget that I went back to the title page and added some ripped paper in the corners. I just kept flipping back to that page and was like, it's missing something. I'm also I have the too much gene. I feel like I can never tell when a spread is done because I'm like, it could use more washi tape or more stickers. It just always needs more. So I have a problem with that, but I do feel like it looks better with the pieces of paper in the corners. I forgot that I went back and added that in. But going back to the goals page, actually working on finishing that, up at the top, I do add some washi tape, and something that I do throughout all of these spreads and something that I've just been doing a lot recently is kind of ripping the edge of the washi tape to kind of give it this jagged, I guess more paper sort of look. I don't know. It just doesn't look so clean and exact. I don't know. I just really like the look of the ripped washi tape. So I do that up the top. I also layer it with more ripped washi tape, which again, something I do throughout a lot of the spreads in my beginning of the year journal spreads. I just really like them. And again, just adding more stickers and washi tape, doing a lot of layering. I just really want to make sure these pages are properly decorated. I don't want them to feel incomplete. But while I finish up decorating the spread, I thought we could just quickly go over what my actual goals are for the year. I do plan on doing a whole video, like New Year reset kind of vlog, going over my goals and going more in depth with them, but just quickly going over the things I wrote down. Read 60 books, obviously. Read my physical TBR, my Kindle TBR, just, make that more of a priority. Read more diverse stories from diverse authors, finish and get caught up on more series, actually allow myself to DNF books and series because I had a goal last year to allow myself to DNF and I did not do that. So this is the year that I'm actually going to let myself do that. Some more goals that I have is to reread some more favorite books and series because I love rereading, but I just feel like I never do it. Read at least one classic. Don't be intimidated by big books, and quality over quantity this year. That's the whole vibe I'm going for this year. So those are all the goals that I have written down. I also created a little checkbox next to the goals so that I can actually check them off if I'm doing it, because last year with my reading goals page, I just had them listed out in bullet points and it wasn't a good way of tracking whether I was actually working on those goals or not. So I think being able to fill in a little box if I achieve those things will actually hold me accountable to achieve these goals. Now, moving on to my next spread, this is going to be my owned TBR spread. And for the actual decoration and creation of this page, I struggled a little bit with what I wanted to do as a header, but we got there in the end. I kind of switched back and forth between writing out in cursive versus doing the stamps. I feel like it's nice to switch it up on each page so I'm not just seeing the same things over and over again. And this was a page I wanted to use more stamps, and then of course added some stickers and again more scrapbooky layering type of vibes. But for the owned TBR spread, this is going to be a place where I can write down all of the books that I own that are on my TBR. They're books I have yet to read. And having a goal to prioritize more of my physical TBR, I feel like it is going to be nice to have everything listed out and be able to check them off throughout the year once I read them. I don't end up writing anything down in this spread, and you'll see in the flip through kind of what things start to look like. I do a flip through of this reading journal with some of the spreads filled out for you all so you can see how I'm going to be using it throughout the year. But this is one that I have yet to fill out just because I know I'm going to be unhauling some books, so I don't want to write anything down that I end up unhauling. But yes, I think it'll be nice to just have a list of everything that I own that I have yet to read, and hopefully that will make my goal of wanting to prioritize my physical TBR a little bit easier. Or I'll have a similar situation to what happened last year where I will get to the end of the year and have wanted to complete more of my physical TBR and realize I did not do that. Either way, this page will shame me into actually reading my physical TBR or make me realize I need to unhaul even more books at the end of the year. We're just gonna see. It's gonna be a good way to hold myself accountable to read my physical TBR. And now moving on to the next page, we're going to have a very similar sort of thing, but this is going to be for my Kindle TBR. So I have a lot of books that I have acquired on my Kindle over the years, and I, for some reason, just have a hard time remembering that I have things on my Kindle. And I do, I've had Kindle Unlimited kind of back and forth since getting my Kindle, but I've also just had books that I've gotten for free somehow or at a discounted price, and I just forget that I have them on there. So having this list of all of the books on my Kindle TBR is just going to make me remember what I actually have on my Kindle and hopefully remember to pick them up and read these things, because there's a lot of things on my Kindle that I'm very excited about. So I think it'll be nice to have this to remind myself to pick things up on my Kindle. Now, this next spread is another spread that I'm hoping will help me complete another one of my goals, which is to complete more series or get caught up on series. So this is going to be my series tracker spread. So first up at the top, I'm of course creating a header for this page so I know what it is. I also use a mix of tracing paper with the sort of layered look that I'm doing throughout all of these spreads. And I love the tracing paper at some moments. I feel like it can add a really cool look to some of these spreads. However, I feel like this page, it really did not want to cooperate. It really did not want to lay down flat and be glued to the page, especially because I'm putting it in the center so it goes across both of the pages. So whenever I'd fold or like close the journal, it just was not working. But we got there in the end. It doesn't look great, but I managed to get it to at least be glued down, and it'll do. This is yet another page where I show in the flip through sort of what it's going to look like throughout the year, but basically I will just list out all of the series that I've started, and we'll create little boxes for each of the book in the series, and then we'll just color them in as I make progress in that series. I really need to work on finishing some series. There's so many that I want to start and read, and then there's some that I've started that I do want to continue on. It's just now gotten to the point where I've started so many. So I'm hoping this page will once again hold me accountable to finish up some series, but I'm excited to see what ends up on this spread because I feel like I'm going to start some more this year, but I'm also hoping to finish some. The next spread I'm working on is one I'm really excited about because it's something that I kind of took from my reading journal last year, but have now changed and adjusted it to, I think, work better for me. I had like a friend's recommendation page in my reading journal last year, and I think I very much got stuck on the fact that they needed to be recommendations from friends instead of it just being a general place where I can write down books that I want to check out. So that's what this page is going to be. It's going to be my books to check out spread. So I do show a more completed look of this page in the flip through because when I was setting this up, I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to format this page, but really I just want to write down the book itself, the book title that I'm interested in, where I got the recommendation from, if I did get it from somewhere, and then also if I've read the book. So this will just be a place that I can come to, like if I'm not really sure what I want to pick up, what I want to place a hold on Libby, or just books that I'm just not sure what I'm in the mood for or what I want to read. And I think this will be a helpful page to reference when I'm stuck on what to pick up next. All right, so moving on to the next page, this is another thing that I had in my reading journal last year, and it is the Magical Readathon year-long challenge. So the Magical Readathon is a readathon hosted by G over at the channel Book Roast, and it's a readathon that I participate in all the time, like every year, I think, since I've started my channel. It's just really fun, and you basically create your own little character, and you go to the Aurelium Academy, and you take classes, and you study for your specific career or calling. And G has created this year-long challenge where each month you will get a different prompt, and you just it's like a choose your own adventure sort of thing. So you pick one place to start, and then it takes you on this journey, and by the end of the year, if you've completed a prompt every single month, you will get a little reward for your character. So I just printed out the actual map, and I'll be able to visually see my journey, but then over on the right hand side, I wanted there to be a way where I can list out what prompt I'm completing and what book I read for each prompt, especially because the picture I printed out of the actual visual map is not the best quality. So I want to be able to actually read what I'm doing and see what I actually read for each of the prompt. But yeah, this was just a fun year-long challenge I did last year, was successful with it, so I thought I would try it again this year. So the next page is going to be a very boring page for right now, but this is going to be my stats page. So this is really just going to be a place at the end of the year where I can collect all of the information, all of the stats about my reading year. For right now, all I'm really doing is creating a header up at the top that just says stats, and I didn't decorate it too heavily because I wanted to make sure at the end of the year I had plenty of space for all of the graphs and pie charts and all of the information that I wanted to include. I just want to make sure that I have plenty of space for all of that information. So it's not the most exciting spread right now, but at my end of the year flip through, you will be able to see what all of the stats look like in this page a little bit more decorated. I'm sure I will add more decorations once it's filled in. I just, again, want to make sure I have plenty of space for the actual information. Similarly to the last spread, this next spread is going to be a little boring right now, but will be fun to see at the end of the year. This is going to be my 5-star book bracket spread. I have seen other people do these types of spreads where they take their favorite book from each month and pit them against each other, but I figured taking all my 5-star reads from the year is going to make it more challenging. Plus, I feel like some months I read multiple 5 stars new favorite books, and then some months I don't have as many books that I love. So I just feel like this will be a more fun and challenging way of doing the book bracket. So this will be a fun thing to do at the end of the year. All right, we have made it almost to the end of these spreads. We only have a few more left, but of course I couldn't do beginning of the year spreads without having a place for my favorite books of the year. So I'm just creating a header up at the top that just says favorite books of 2024, adding lots of washi tapes and stickers, and just kind of doing the decorative aspect of this page for now. But at the end of the year, I will be able to paste in the book covers of my favorite books of the year. This is going to be another spread that I'm looking forward to filling in all year. It'll just be so exciting to see and just like anticipate what's going to be on this page. I'm hoping there will be lots of book covers. Last year I only included my top 10, but I didn't have very many books I absolutely loved last year. So I'm hoping that this page is like overwhelmed with so many book covers of new favorite books. So this next page is not going to look like much of anything. I'm just putting washi tape up at the top and the bottom of the pages, but this is going to be a spread that again is filled out throughout the whole year. This is going to be where I paste in all of the book covers for every single book that I read in 2024. These are some of my favorite spreads to include in my reading journal. It's just a cool visual way of seeing every single book that you read, and honestly such a big motivator for me to read because every time I finish a book, I get to paste in one of the book covers. So it's just a really fun spread to have, and I created 4 of these pages just to make sure I had plenty of space for all of the books I'm going to read throughout the year, but basically just sticking some washi tape at the top and bottom for now to add some decorative element, but then that's really it. And now we've made it to the final spread of these beginning of the year spreads, and this is going to be a quotes page. So I used to include quote pages in every single monthly setup in my reading journal, but I found that there were a lot of months where I didn't use all of the pages I was setting up for them, and it just felt like I was wasting pages in the journal. So I'm just going to do a journal page at the beginning for the quotes, and once this one is filled up, I will do another quote page at that point in the journal. It will just be kind of dispersed randomly throughout the journal when they're needed instead of setting them up every single month. So now that I have finished setting up my reading journal, I thought we could do a little flip through. I figured being able to just chat with you all, explain some of the spreads, because I have started filling things in, and I can just kind of explain how I'm going to be using them throughout the year. I figured this would just be easier. So getting into the journal, we have these first few pages for the contents. I may use these to like keep track of which books I'm reading, which months. I also accidentally put tape here. We're gonna ignore that. But yeah, I might actually use these pages this year just to keep track of where certain books that I read in certain months are, but we'll see. Then we get into the kind of title page for the whole journal, and this no space, this mistake, if it's bothering you, just know it's bothering me so much more, and I'm gonna have to look at it all year, so just keep that in mind. But I do like the way that this turned out, especially because I kind of went into my reading journal setup this year just being like, I'm just gonna do the scrapbooky style and just see what happens, so I am happy with how this turned out. Then we get into my reading goal page. So I have my numerical goal over here, some other just general goals that I have for the year here. And I actually thought while we were here, I have finished my first book of the year. So I thought we could fill these in and I can just kind of show you how this is going to start looking throughout the rest of the year. So I have completed one book. So we're going to color in this first square. I also realized I didn't want to use this marker for filling this in because this is what I used last year, so I was gonna switch it up, but it's too late now. I already did it, so I guess we're committing to that marker again. But yes, this is the reading goal page, and then we get into my own TBR, which, as you can see, I have not filled out yet. I'm planning on doing a bit of an unhaul of some books on my TBR, so I didn't want to write down all of the books just in case I ended up unhauling them and then they were just written here and wouldn't end up being filled in, like it would just be taking up space. So when this is actually filled out, it'll look something like this. This is my Kindle TBR. So I just went through all of the books that I have on my Kindle, not from Kindle Unlimited. These are just the books that I've acquired over the years that I have yet to read. The Stuff Your Kindle Day was a dangerous thing for me. I really should not participate in that ever again because I bought so many like fantasy romance books and I have no idea what any of them are at this point. So I have so many books on my Kindle that I need to get to. Some I'm definitely more excited about than others, but yeah, I think it'll be nice to have a list of this somewhere so that I can actually hold myself accountable to read my books on my Kindle, because I feel like I often forget about the books that I have on Kindle. So I think this will be helpful to have. Then I have my series tracker, which again, I have started so many more series than this, but I really want to make sure I'm writing down the series on this page I actually want to continue. So I've only written down the Regency Fairy Tale series by Olivia Atwater because Half a Soul was my first book of the year. So colored that in, definitely want to continue on with this series this year. I had this problem last year where at the beginning of the year, I just wrote down every series I had started in my reading journal. And then throughout the year, didn't really want to continue on with some of those series. So then they were just taking space up on these pages. So gonna be more strategic about what series I end up putting on this list. Then we have my books to check out spread, which I decided to go with this kind of table setup. So I can write down the book title, and if I got the recommendation from a friend, a booktuber, Instagram, wherever it may be, or if I just like, it's a book that I've just genuinely had an interest in for a really long time, I can just leave that blank, but that's an option for me if I want to fill that out, if I did get it as a recommendation from somebody. And then I could also check off if I've actually read it. And I did create 2 columns. I don't know if I'm going to end up using all of it, especially because over here, like it does go into the decoration. So we'll see. But I think it'll be nice to have this kind of structure to this page. Then we're into the Magical Readathon year-long challenge, which I have started filling out. The first challenge that I decided to go with was to read physically. And so I read Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, so that is done. So I will just be able to pick my path throughout the year. And I also blocked off the 2 months that the month-long readathons are happening where there's no monthly challenge. Then my very boring stats page, which will look more exciting at the end of the year. Also my very boring 5-star book bracket page, which again will look more exciting at the end of the year. I'm either gonna write down all of the books on the sides here and go in towards the middle, or I'll just go from like one side to the next to find my favorite book of the year. I will just have to see at the end of the year how many 5 stars I do end up having and decide the best method. And I also thought it could be fun to do a video like filling this out. So we'll see. Then we have my favorite books of 2024 spread. I'll just paste in the book covers once I have my favorite books of the year at the end of the year. And then these pages do look a little boring, but this is where I'm going to document all of the books that I read throughout the year. I only showed me doing this first one, but I kind of just added washi tape to the top, and then I will have all of the book covers going across. I was going to show me pasting in the first book cover of the year because this was my first book read, but I accidentally got tape on the front of the cover, and I might as well just reprint it. At least, like, it's the first one of the year. I want it to be good. I don't want the pages sticking together, so I'm gonna have to reprint it because it's all messed up with the glue on the front now, but it will kind of look, you know, like this with all of the book covers going across. And I have done flip throughs of my reading journals in the past if you want to see what these kind of spreads will look like. But I made 4 of these spreads, which I think will be plenty. I think it's like 128 books that I'm able to fit with the size book covers that I use, which is way more than I need. I will not get that many books read in a year, but I like knowing I have plenty of space. And then after the final books read page, we have my first quote page of the year. I definitely think that I'm going to need a lot more quote pages throughout the journal, but I used to do these monthly and I just found I did not need them every single month. I just want to make sure that I'm using, you know, all of the pages in the journal. It doesn't make sense to have empty pages, so I'm just going to do the quote pages throughout the journal when I need them. But this is the first quote page of the year, and this is also the final page in my beginning of the year spreads. So I thought before we wrap this up, I could quickly show you my January spreads. So this year I'm really challenging myself to use more of my stationery. I have so many stickers and I just fear using them. So this is going to be the year that I use more of my stickers in my reading journal and hopefully my normal bullet journal as well. But this is definitely a bit of a different setup than what I'm used to. So I feel like there's a lot of changes that I'm making in my reading journal this year, and we're just going to see how it goes, because I think it's just going to be an ever evolving thing. Every month it's going to be different, which I think is going to be good. I feel like last year in my reading journal, I kind of got stuck doing the same exact layouts and things every single month, and that made me not really excited to set it up. I just kind of got stuck in the same routine. So I think it'll be fun to switch it up every month. But I do have my main title for the month of January, and then up here I have a little section for my TBR. Like, this is something that will change every single month, because I'm gonna have months where I'm sure there's more than 2 things on my TBR. This month I didn't really have anything specific I wanted to read other than these 2 things, so I was able to kind of use this page in other ways. But I'm sure there's going to be months where this whole page is dedicated to my TBR. It's just going to be something that is dependent on that month. But I have my TBR up here, and then because that was the only thing I really had on this page, I decided to create a little stats section. I think it'll be fun to have a little stats area in my monthly setup, so that when I go to do my stats page at the end of the year, it's a little bit easier. I'm just going to be able to go through my monthly spreads and take all of those stats. Whereas last year in my reading journal for 2023, I had to kind of figure out all of the stats at the end of the year, and it took me quite a while to figure everything out. But I think having this already done every single month and just being able to pull this information at the end of the year will be much easier. So I'm going to write the total pages that I read here, the total hours listened if I listened to any audiobooks in the month, and then I'm also going to write out all the books that I read in January here. Now, this might not look like a ton of space. However, it is the 17th of January when I'm filming this, and I've only finished 1 book this month, which is fine, but I just know that I'm not going to have, you know, a ton of books to write down here. So I think this will be plenty of space. Again, this is going to be something that will change depending on the month. And then I have these 4 circles, which are going to be some graphs of some of the stats from the month. I'm going to do one for the age category, one for the genre, one for star ratings, and the format of what I read in the month. And I think it'll just be really fun to kind of set these up every single month. But also, this is going to be something that's changing every single month. So I'm just excited to see what I decide to do with my reading journal this year. I'm excited to experiment, try some new things, see what I like, what I don't like, and just kind of change it up month to month so that I don't get bored. But yeah, that is it for the January spreads so far, and also for my beginning of the year spreads in my reading journal. I'm really happy with how they all came out. I'm very excited for a new year of reading, and I feel like having a new reading journal to fill out throughout the year is just making me even more excited. I'd love to know if you ended up doing a reading journal this year, if you've done one before, if this is your first year with a reading journal. I'd love to know everything. Let's chat about books, chat about journaling, my 2 favorite things. But I think that that is going to be it for my 2024 reading journal setup. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.